Isaac Dorman didn't like spacewalks. He never said it out loud, especially not to the crew of the Sorethi diplomatic vessel, who treated every extravehicular operation like a meditative ritual, but the truth was, being in a suit with nothing but a few layers of polymer between him and the void made his skin crawl. "Status check, Dorman," came the voice of Captain Melek through the comms. Melek, the Sorethi commanding officer, had a tone that always sounded like it was judging you for existing. Isaac tapped a gloved finger against his helmet's mic harness secure. Cutter engaged. "I'm starting the panel removal." Below him, the shattered remains of the cargo bay's exterior hull gleamed with the residual heat of an asteroid impact. The ship's shields had buckled during a flare burst, and a tiny, stupid rock had punched a hole through 3 decks. Lucky no one had been in that section when it hit. Isaac brought the plasma cutter in close and sliced through the warped plating. The metal hissed and curled like scorched paper. "Proceed with caution," Melek said. "That section may still be structurally compromised." "I'm not dancing on it," Isaac muttered. The Sorethi didn't respond. Probably didn't understand the joke. They didn't have dancing. Or humor. The panel broke free and Isaac caught it with a tether before it could drift. As he pivoted to secure it to his tool rig, something shifted beneath him. A creak. A vibration. Then the entire hull segment collapsed inward. He didn't fall far, maybe 5 meters, but his left leg clipped a jagged edge of torn metal on the way down. The pain hit instantly, sharp and deep, and he let out a rattled yell as his body slammed against the inner bulkhead. Alarm screamed through his suit. Pressure drop. Structural damage. Biofeedback surging. "Dorman," Melek's voice snapped in his ear. "You're hurt." Isaac gritted his teeth. His leg was on fire. The lower part of it didn't feel like it belonged to him anymore. He couldn't see the injury because of the suit, but he could feel the warmth, too much warmth. He knew what that meant. "Yeah," he gasped. "Took a hit. I'm still conscious. I do not move. Medical team is en route." "I can fix it myself," Isaac said, panting. "Just give me a roll of tape." There was a pause. On the other end, Melek murmured something in Sorethi. Another voice, higher and more clinical, came online. "This is Medic Phelan. Your vitals indicate significant trauma, possibly a compound fracture. You must remain still." Isaac leaned back, his gloved fingers trembling as he reached toward the emergency repair kit clipped to his belt. He pulled it open and found the roll of industrial sealant tape. It was meant for patching suit breaches in emergencies, not for fixing bones, but it was all he had. "I said I can fix it," Isaac growled, sweat pouring down his face inside the helmet. "I've had worse. Humans cannot survive femoral lacerations without immediate surgical intervention," Phelan said, clinical as ever. "Your wound is fatal." Isaac laughed, which came out more like a wheeze. "That's cute. You ever been to a high school wrestling match in Wisconsin? I've seen worse injuries from folding chairs. This is not humorous." "No, it's not. But I'm not dying out here." He peeled back the leg of the suit carefully, using the emergency cutter to slice through the fabric. The pain nearly made him black out. Blood welled up and floated in sticky red globules. The wound was deep, and the bone didn't look right. But he dealt with worse. Afghanistan in 2040 had been worse. He wrapped the tape tight, layer after layer, compressing it hard enough to slow the bleeding. The pain was indescribable. But he kept going until the suit's bio readings stabilized enough to stop screaming. "I've slowed the bleed," he said through gritted teeth. "Now get me to Medbay and do your alien voodoo." The retrieval team arrived within minutes. 2 Sorethi engineers and a floating gurney. They gently lifted him onto it, their faces unreadable. Phelan hovered beside him, scanning. "You should not be alive," the medic said. Isaac didn't bother replying. He was too busy trying not to pass out. The medbay was cold, sterile, and humming with soft blue light. Sorethi tech was impeccable but not built for human physiology. Phelan had to download schematics from Earth's public medical archives just to start treatment. They ran scans. The femur was fractured in 2 places. There was tissue damage, but no artery had been severed. "Close, though. You will require bone stabilization and regenerative therapy," Phelan said. How long? For full recovery, approximately 10 to 12 weeks. Isaac nodded. Got any magazines? Phelan blinked. Magazines? Never mind. For the next week, Isaac remained mostly in bed. The Sorethi had no concept of bedside manner. Phelan visited twice daily, administered treatments, and asked questions he didn't want to answer. Why did you delay treatment? Phelan asked on day 5. I didn't delay, Isaac said. I stabilized. You used sealing tape. It worked. Your vitals were critical. But I'm not dead, am I? Phelan stared at him. You do not value your life as others do. Isaac chuckled weakly. That's not it. I just don't like being told I'm done before I decide I'm done. Melek visited on day 7. For a Sorethi, that was unusual. Command didn't socialize. You have disrupted protocol, Melek said. You're welcome. We assumed you were beyond saving. I assumed you were wrong. Melek studied him in silence. The council has requested a report on your survival. They are intrigued. Isaac frowned. Why? They believe you possess anomalous biology. Oh great. Now I'm a lab rat. No. You are an example. A variable we did not predict. Isaac leaned back on the pillow. We're full of surprises. Over the next 2 weeks, Isaac progressed through therapy with the help of a human physical rehab program uploaded into the alien systems. Resistance bands, walking braces, hydrotherapy tanks. The Sorethi watched everything. Not just Phelan, but engineers, scientists, even the ship's AI. They asked questions constantly. Why did he tolerate pain? Why didn't he panic? Why did he laugh when they pronounced him terminal? He didn't have good answers. He just did what he always did, kept going. 23 days after the injury, Isaac walked the length of the med bay unaided. Slowly with a limp, but he did it. Phelan was silent. Melek, who'd been watching from the corridor, tilted his head. You are operational. Not pretty, but yeah. You should be dead. Stop saying that. You're gonna give me a complex. What would have happened if the tape had not worked? Melek asked. I'd be dead. And yet you attempted it anyway. Isaac shrugged. Sometimes you take the shot. Because no one else is coming. Melek was quiet for a long time. Then he said, your kind may be more compatible with the unknown than we estimated. Isaac looked up at him. We're not superhuman. We just don't give up easy. Melek nodded slightly. We will remember that. A week later, Isaac suited up again. The hull breach had been repaired, but the diagnostics relay needed recalibration from the exterior. Melek had offered to assign the task to someone else, but Isaac refused. He stepped out into the void again, slower this time, more careful. His leg ached with every movement, but it held. As he adjusted the relay, Melek's voice came through the comms. You are functional again. Mostly. Would you like assistance? Nah. Just send me the tape if it goes bad. There was a pause. We will keep it on standby. The hydrostatic chamber hissed open with a moist sigh. Isaac stepped out, towel slung over one shoulder, legs stiff but operational. He moved with an uneven rhythm, not quite a limp, more like a reminder. The chamber had accelerated tissue repair, but bones didn't care about alien timelines. They healed when they healed. And his had decided it wasn't in a hurry. Your gait still suggests instability, said Phelan, hovering in the corridor's soft glow. I suggest you stop watching me walk like I'm a lab project, Isaac replied, drying his hair with slow, jerky motions. You got better things to monitor. Like the crew that keeps forgetting how stairs work in 0G. I am not observing for entertainment. It is data. Sure. But maybe next time buy me dinner first. Phelan blinked once, then twice, the Sorethi equivalent of a buffering error. Isaac enjoyed the pause far more than he should have. They moved through the corridor together. The Sorethi ship had no hard edges, just curves that bent like melted glass, designed to flow rather than hold. It made walking difficult for humans who liked corners and right angles. Isaac had learned to lean into the turns instead of fighting them. It was like navigating a building designed by a drunk jellyfish. You requested clearance to assist in the hull reinforcement project, Phelan said as they approached the fabrication chamber. Yeah. I figured since I already got impaled by our last engineering failure, I might as well help prevent the next. There are still concerns regarding your exertion limits. Then someone better keep up with me. Inside, the fabrication chamber buzzed with low-frequency hums. Translucent panels pulsed with schematics. Two Sorethi engineers were already at the controls, slender figures with elongated limbs and expressions like carved stone. They nodded as Isaac entered, but spoke nothing. Isaac pulled on a light exo harness, one of the few tools on board retrofitted for human musculature. It groaned faintly as it adjusted to his frame. One of the engineers, a tall Sorethi with copper-toned dermal plating, gestured toward the open schematics. "We are initiating bonding of load struts. Your assignment is to supervise structural resonance tolerances. Your species has demonstrated unusually high tolerance for spatial dissonance." That's a poetic way of saying we don't puke when the walls vibrate. The engineer tilted their head. Yes. Isaac reviewed the schematics. The bonding points were too tight. The reinforcement beams would flex under pressure, but not enough to distribute force evenly. He pointed to the junctions. These need to be staggered. If you mount them flush, you'll get harmonics bouncing down the frame. That's what caused the buckling last time. The engineer stared at him for a moment, then adjusted the model silently. The structure shifted in the projection, showing a new dispersion pattern. Isaac tapped the panel. "That'll breathe better. You are not certified in Sorethi load mechanics." "No, but I've rebuilt engine mounts with a fork and a car jack on the side of a freezing highway. Same principles. Don't let stress pile up in one place." The other engineer murmured something to the first, too low for Isaac to catch. He didn't need to. He'd seen that look before in 100 places, a mix of doubt and reluctant curiosity. He didn't mind. That look usually came right before someone asked him to fix their coffee machine with duct tape. The reinforcement process began with a soft ion pulse. Beams extended from the chamber walls like growing roots, bonding to the inner hull with quiet clicks. Isaac monitored the readings, adjusting resonance profiles manually. The ship's AI protested twice, then gave up and let him override. 2 hours into the operation, the chamber lights dimmed suddenly. A red halo pulsed along the ceiling. Isaac looked up. "What did I do this time?" "Not you," Phelan said, eyes narrowing. "External anomaly detected. The ship is reducing power to auxiliary systems." The engineers pulled back from their consoles. One tapped the wall, bringing up a live feed. A slow-moving cluster of objects drifted toward the ship, cloudy, irregular, not natural. Not asteroids. Isaac squinted. "That looks like debris. Old tech. Maybe a broken station?" "No transponder," Phelan said. "No thermal signature. No recognized geometry. Could be Earth junk. We left a lot of that floating around. It is approaching with minimal deviation. If it is unpowered, this is statistically improbable. Maybe space just likes us." The ship's AI chimed in, voice as calm and emotionless as always. "Collision probability has risen to 23%. Initiating trajectory correction." The chamber vibrated slightly as the ship adjusted course. The objects did not. They altered vector subtly, aligning again. Isaac frowned. "These things don't know how to take a hint." "Unknown entities," one engineer said. "Recommend proximity scans." Phelan nodded, tapping his wrist console. "Spectral analysis in progress." A minute passed. Then another. The analysis returned nothing. No emissions. No magnetic field. No decay signatures. They are not a note, but they are not transmitting. Isaac stepped toward the feed. The objects were closer now. Still featureless. No lights. No movement. Just silent shapes drifting with too much intent. "All right," he exhaled. "That's officially creepy." The ship shuddered again. The lights flickered. "Impact imminent," came the AI. Isaac braced, grabbing a support rail. The engineers did the same, though they didn't look worried. Sorethi weren't known for panic. But the impact never came. Instead, the objects stopped. Just stopped. 30 meters off the hull. Motionless. Phelan stared at the feed. "They are stationary." "No kidding. Perhaps scanning us." "Without sensors?" The objects began to rotate slowly, like they were adjusting for a better view. Still no emissions. Then one of them broke apart. Not exploded, separated. A piece of it detached and drifted toward the ship. The piece was small. Metallic. Shaped like a cube with rounded edges. Isaac narrowed his eyes. "That's not junk. That's a delivery." "Shields are active," said one engineer. "It will not reach us." But the cube didn't slow. It passed through the shielding field like it wasn't there. No resistance. No friction. Phelan moved forward. "We must intercept." "Not with a weapon," Isaac said. "If it wanted to hurt us, it could have just slammed into the bridge." The cube stopped 2 meters from the outer hull. It hovered there, spinning slowly. Isaac turned to the engineers. "Can you bring it in? We can attempt a controlled retrieval." "Do it." 10 minutes later, the cube sat on a diagnostics table in the containment lab. It hadn't reacted to anything, not light, not heat, not magnetic probes. It just hovered quietly, like it was waiting. Isaac leaned in. "Feels like a Rubik's Cube built by a minimalist." Phelan folded his arms. "Do you believe it to be a message?" "Could be. Or a gift. Or a really polite bomb." He reached out, hesitating just long enough to second-guess himself, then touched the surface with one fingertip. The cube unfolded. Panels slid apart silently, revealing a core of shifting light. It pulsed once. Then a projection emerged, 3-dimensional, translucent, and definitely not anything from Earth. It showed a spiral of symbols that rotated, clicked, and rearranged themselves. Isaac blinked. "Okay. Definitely not from around here." "Not Sorethi either," Phelan said quietly. The projection shifted again, this time forming a vague humanoid shape. No face. No limbs. Just a silhouette of a being. Then it spoke. Not in English. Not in Sorethi. But Isaac understood it. Not the words, those were a mess, but something beneath them. A feeling. An intention. He stepped back. "It's not talking. It's showing." "What do you perceive?" "Curiosity. Caution. And something else." The silhouette flickered. Then it showed an image, a human figure, in a spacesuit, leg bleeding, wrapping it with tape. Phelan turned sharply. "That is you." Isaac stared at the image. "That's from the hull breach." The silhouette dissolved and the message ended. The cube folded back into itself, silent once more. Phelan's voice was low. "They were watching." Isaac let out a breath. "Guess they liked the show." The room was quiet for a long moment. "Should we respond?" one of the engineers asked. Isaac looked at the cube. "We already did." Phelan met his gaze. "And they answered." The cube sat untouched on the observation table in compartment 12, still humming faintly with residual energy. A containment field surrounded it, not because anyone thought it was dangerous, but because no one could figure out what else to do with it. Every analysis returned the same result: unknown composition, unknown origin, unknown mechanism. No obvious seams, no power source, no circuitry. It simply was. Isaac stood beside the table, arms crossed, still stiff from the last therapy session. His leg protested if he shifted weight too quickly, but it had stopped buckling days ago. He hadn't used the crutch since the 3rd morning after the encounter. "Still no response?" he asked without turning. "No change in behavior since initial activation," said the technician beside him. The Sorethi's name was Gleneth, though Isaac wasn't sure if that was a name or a role. Their robes were a muted green, and one of their 4 fingers tapped rhythmically against a panel, more out of thought than necessity. "You didn't touch it, did you?" "I have not engaged physical contact. The last time it reacted, it was to you specifically." Isaac reached forward and gently tapped the cube again. Nothing happened. He waited a moment longer, then rapped on it twice like a stubborn vending machine. Still nothing. "So much for consistency," he muttered and sat down on the bench behind him, stretching out his legs slowly, wincing as the joint clicked. "Any chance it's solar-powered?" "It is currently exposed to full-spectrum photonic illumination. If it responds to light, it is being stubborn." "Great. An alien object with mood swings." Gleneth tilted their head. "Human sarcasm?" "Not entirely." The door to the lab opened with a soft hiss, and Phelan entered, holding a slim data wand. His expression was unreadable, which Isaac had come to interpret as either grave concern or mild annoyance. "I've concluded the neural echo scan," Phelan said. "The device is not projecting in any conventional electromagnetic band, but there is evidence of sub-threshold modulation. It may communicate by resonance rather than signal." "Like sonar?" Isaac asked. "More akin to sympathetic vibration. It may be responding to particular emotional or physiological states." "You think it liked me because I was bleeding out?" You were in an altered state: pain, stress, determination. Perhaps that combination acts as a key. Isaac leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. You want me to injure myself again? No, good. Because I wasn't going to. But we may attempt to simulate similar conditions. Elevated cortisol, adrenaline, heightened awareness. Sounds like a dinner with my ex. Phelan ignored that. We can initiate safe physiological triggers. Mild exertion, controlled hypoxia, emotional stimuli. You want me to run laps while watching sad movies? Gleneth looked up. We lack cultural references for your cinema. It's not that complicated. Just show me a dog dying in slow motion and I'll cry on cue. Phelan stepped closer to the cube. I propose a more controlled approach. You will perform coordinated movements while we monitor the neural resonance field. And if it wakes up again? Then we proceed with caution. 15 minutes later, Isaac stood barefoot on a biosensor mat, cables attached to his temples and chest. His shirt was off and the temperature in the room had been lowered to induce mild physical stress. He jogged in place, careful to avoid putting too much pressure on the recovering leg. Heart rate at 96, Gleneth noted. Cortisol trending upward. This would be easier if you just threw me into a cold shower. Phelan adjusted the panel. Maintain pace. The cube is registering micro fluctuations. Define micro. Not yet meaningful. Isaac kept moving. The leg throbbed, but not dangerously. Just enough to remind him that flesh heals slower than pride. Sweat dotted his forehead. After several more minutes, the cube twitched. Not moved, twitched. A fraction of a rotation, as if startled. Gleneth's eyes widened. Response detected. Isaac stopped. That was real, right? Not a calibration glitch. No anomaly in sensors. The cube shifted again. A small panel on one face unfolded slightly, exposing a thin lattice beneath. From it, a low harmonic tone emanated, barely audible but deep enough to rattle Isaac's lungs. Okay, that's new. The lattice began to pulse, emitting a rhythmic sequence. Not light, not sound, something both and neither. It coiled in the air like a thought made visible. Isaac didn't move. What's it doing? Projecting, Phelan said quietly. But not in language. In state. The projection reformed. This time, instead of abstract shapes or silhouettes, it showed a structure tall, narrow, and crumbling. A tower, but not of any known design. Segments of it fell away in fragments, and each time a piece broke off, a pulse of energy rippled outward. Isaac frowned. That doesn't look like a message. It may be a warning. The tower collapsed entirely, and the projection expanded to show a field of debris, machines, vessels, fragments of unknown materials. All drifting. Gleneth's voice was tense. That configuration matches the anomaly we encountered. Isaac looked from the cube to the projection. You think it's showing us what happened to them? Possibly. Phelan stepped forward, eyes fixed on the image. Or what could happen to us? The projection snapped off. The cube closed. Silence fell. Isaac exhaled slowly. Well, that's cheerful. Phelan didn't respond immediately. He tapped a few commands into the display, then turned to Isaac. The device is not a threat. It is a cautionary artifact. A form of memory. Like a black box. More intentional. It chose to reveal this. And it chose you. Isaac wiped his forehead. Because I wrapped my leg with tape and kept going? Persistence under failure conditions. Refusal to abandon function. These are traits that may have been recognized. Gleneth stepped back from the console. Then it was not scanning for intelligence. It was scanning for resilience. Isaac sat down again, leg aching more now. That's a weird thing to prioritize. Not if it came from something that failed to survive. The cube remained silent, inert. Later that day, the containment chamber was deactivated. The cube was moved to a secure observation vault not because it was dangerous, but because it had said all it needed to. No more projections followed. It stayed quiet as if its task was complete. Isaac was cleared for full duty the following morning. No more therapy sessions. No more biofeedback monitors. Phelan handed him a final report in a slim data slate. Your recovery is within expected parameters. The council has requested a full transcript of your actions. I'm not a hero, Phelan. I just didn't want to bleed out in a hallway. That is exactly why they are interested. Isaac handed back the slate. Well, let them know I'm available for birthdays and minor catastrophes. Phelan blinked. "You're joking again." "Little bit." He turned to leave. At the door, he paused. "Thanks for not letting me die on that table. You did not allow yourself to die. We merely witnessed it." Outside, the corridor was quiet. The ship moved forward through space, the anomaly left behind shrinking into the dark. In the observation vault, the cube sat still. It would never open again. But it didn't need to. It had found what it was looking for.